Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from Strata Data in London. I'm here with Mandy from IBM. Mandy, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
So you gave a keynote this morning, and a very provocative start saying the data landscape is broken. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously we have thousands of different types of systems, and that's where the data is born. It's also born in mobile applications, in devices and sensors. And then it comes down the wire as bits and bytes, and then the data scientist receives it and thinks, well, what's that about? What does it mean? What's its quality? How much can I rely on it? Where can I use it? All these questions are known to the original system owners where the data came from, but not known to anybody downstream. So if we really want to get value out of data, we have to start labeling it and making sure all that tribal knowledge around the data origin moves with the data. So when the data scientist gets the data, there's enough information so that they can use it effectively.
So how much context can you pack into that metadata description of the data?
Actually, the metadata could get bigger than the data in many respects, because you need to understand its format, its structure, as much information about the thought process behind that data as it's captured. So, for example, if you're collecting names of people who are prospects for selling, for marketing, that's a very different data collection process than when you're actually signing up customers for an account that has financial responsibility associated with it. So they're both customer lists, but they're two very, very different types of customer lists. So it's that type of information that's almost as valuable as knowing this one's written in XML, this one's written in some sort of binary format. So.
And so, like in the case of, I know one of your former scientists, Jeff Jonas, used to say data finds data. How would you do metadata for data that's finding data?
Yeah, interesting.
Exploratory data. Yeah.
So it's almost like it's, as a cyclist says, it's small gains. You do this and you get small gain, and that's really how metadata works. You put what you know at the start, and then as you process more, you get deeper understanding in the structure of the data and how it's changing over time. And then you can start bringing in other data and saying, well, actually, these columns in this table are exactly the same as the columns in this table. It's probably the same data. And then you start to say, okay, this is a broader perspective. So the finding data also requires almost a suspicious set of processing to make sure, I know these numbers correspond, but are they really the same thing? Do they really make sense? So I think it's an augmentation of your understanding and a capture of that processing.
And will data ever be self-describing in the metadata? I mean, can AI help with data explaining what the data is and how it's derived?
I think it can. It's something we just have to choose to focus on, and then have standards around those data formats so that they can be exchanged and picked up by something else that then adds to that knowledge. And as I say, if we do this right, the contextual and metadata around data is going to get bigger and actually become more valuable than the original data.
So this is important for everyone. This isn't just about IBM.
This
is the data world.
This is about changing IT to bring data up to be a much more first-class aspect of the platform. You look at our programming languages and the way the systems are written, it's all about the processing. But actually, it's almost like data's is a secondary piece, and it's owned by the system. But actually what we want to do is to say, actually data's flowing across our landscape, and it needs to go with its description, with its metadata, to enable a business to be data-driven rather than process-driven as it's been in the past.
So IBM is a classic example of a company that is just immersed in data. In how you run your business.
That's right, yeah.
And then immersed in data and how you're working with your partners and customers.
That's right.
So you've got the internal need and the external capability to help people.
Yes.
So how do those two come together? I mean, like you're learning as you're going?
Yes,
yeah.
and we work both sides. So I work for our Chief Data Officer who's actually partially looking internally into IBM and how we run our business using data. Plus also I work with a lot of clients, helping them with their same questions really, how they do their governance, how they find their data, how they enable people to think about data.
And so you mentioned earlier data scientist. Is that person different than the data analyst that used to exist and has maybe morphed and changed their title to become data scientists?
So there's a core data understanding and an understanding about all the little traps of it that are found in data. But the data analyst their job almost stops when they understand that data. The data scientist is trying to build new value. So they've got more of a business head. They've got different business use cases. They're trying to really find something interesting that's going to then change the business, give people a new perspective on things.
And then that same data scientist also works with your partners to help them solve their issues and help them build solutions, or is there some sort of intermediary there, or how does that work?
In general, when you look at a data scientist's work, they really understand the data, they can build algorithms. For those algorithms to be useful, that needs to go to a data engineer to actually get it embedded into the systems. It needs to be, the business analysts need to say, okay, how do we change the way we work given this new insight? Because, the system can come out with this brilliant, these are the customers you go after. If nobody picks that list up and goes after it, then, the data science isn't giving you much value. So often there's a business change around data. There's a process change, the way the applications use the data, as well as the core data science that sits at the heart of this.
So do you see data significantly helping IBM become a leaner, meaner organization? I mean, is data going to be something that carries everyone through the future?
I think it's going to. We're a very, very complex organisation, as you can imagine, and so we do an awful lot of data sharing. We actually have a single collaborative system that everybody's sharing information on. We have a lot of consolidated systems and one way of doing things across the world. So it has been an ongoing journey. It's something that's never going to stop, really, in terms of how we transform and make use of data ourselves. I think the biggest challenge is always changing people's mindsets. They're used to working on their own gut feeling, their experience, and then to actually get them to think about, well, what data could I use? How can I make this better? That's still, an ongoing education process for us all.
Yeah, I like that ongoing. A lot of people describe digital transformation as something we're trying to achieve in the world.
Like it's a switch.
All of a sudden we became digital,
yeah.
and So I think that's continual transformation.
That's
that we're on this cycle of always having
from the very first. Let's automate the payroll, all the way through to let's make sure that everybody has sort of cognitive type advisors around them, helping them understand the complexities of the decisions that they're making. So yes, we've really, and I'm sure that there's another wave that will come, in 5 years' time we'll be saying, oh yeah, now we've done cognitive, let's do something new. So
excellent. So let's not go 5 years out. Let's back up to if we have this conversation next year in London, 12 months from now.
Yeah. What's
going to change for IBM and their use of data and their use of ML and AI? What's going to change in that 12 months that you see happening?
Many things, actually. So one of the things we're doing is we've got a big focus on open metadata and governance. So we are helping build out an open source project called Apache Atlas, which will give a foundation for how metadata can be structured, exchanged, and used in many applications. We're going to rebase our products on that. We're also going to use it internally as we do a lot more data-driven processing for our own benefit, but also offer data services to customers. So you can see, this will become an underpinning for how we share and make better use of data. On the customer side, we're getting more and more experience about how we help them use AI in their processing.
And this is an Apache license for Atlas, so it's something you want everyone to use.
Absolutely, yes, that's right. So all the contributions we're making are code and knowledge around how you manage metadata contributions. It's everything we're doing, the designs, the discussion, it's all in public, so anybody can join.
Excellent. Mandy, we look forward to that conversation and journey. Thank you.